Hi everyone, I'm Jackie and I'm here to help you pass your US Naturalization Interview. A lot of you have asked me, what are the most asked questions during the naturalization interview? Well, first, every interview is different, and what you will be asked depends on the interview officer and your application. However, I've compiled a list of the most asked questions based on feedback from actual applicants. Make sure to watch until the end because the last few questions are extremely important. Let's start. Why do you want to become a U.S. citizen? The simple answer is because I want to vote. That's the main difference between a green card holder and a U.S. citizen. Voting is both your right and your responsibility as a U.S. citizen. That's also a civics question. Other answers could be, I believe in the form of government of the United States, or because of the rights and freedoms of U.S. citizens. Just choose whatever you're comfortable with. What are your children's relationship to you? When I ask this question during my live Zoom sessions, some applicants will say, pretty good, which is incorrect. This question is not asking, how's your relationship with your children, which as we know, could be good or bad. This question is asking if they are your biological children, stepchildren, or adopted children. So make sure to answer accordingly. Did you register to vote in any elections in the U.S.? This question is related to Part 12, questions 2 and 3 on your application. The answer should be no to both questions. You shouldn't register to vote or vote in any federal, state, or local election in the U.S. before you become a U.S. citizen. The officer might follow up and ask, why didn't you register to vote in any election in the U.S.? You can simply say, because I am not a U.S. citizen yet, but hopefully soon. Do you always file your taxes? Now, this is a question you need to pay attention to. This is the opposite of the question on your N400 application, Part 12, Question 7A. Have you ever not filed a federal, state, or local tax return since you became a lawful permanent resident? No matter how the officer asks this question, an easy way to answer is, I've always filed my taxes since I've received my green card. And it's perfectly fine if you don't file taxes for a valid reason, such as your income is below the filing threshold. You can say, I didn't file my taxes in 2022 because my income was below the filing threshold. One more thing, if you're applying for naturalization through marriage, it's a good idea if you filed your taxes with your spouse jointly. That shows your marriage is legitimate. So you can say, I've always filed my taxes jointly with my spouse since I received my green card. Do you owe any taxes? Filing and paying taxes show that you have good moral character, which is one of the requirements to become a U.S. citizen. So it's important not to owe any taxes at the time of your interview. However, if you do owe taxes and don't have the ability to pay it off, make sure to have an IRS payment plan in place. In addition, bring the IRS payment plan and proof of payments to your naturalization interview to show that your account is up to date. Have you called yourself a non-U.S. resident on any of the tax returns? This is related to Part 12, Question 8 on your N400 application. A non-U.S. resident just means someone who doesn't live in the U.S. If you consider yourself to be a non-U.S. resident on your tax returns, you don't have to pay certain taxes. So the answer should be no. And the reason is because you are a permanent resident and you have been living in the US. Can you show me your tax return transcripts, please? Your interview notice is very generic and doesn't mention about bringing tax return transcripts. However, I strongly recommend you bring them. I've seen more and more officers asking for them, and your approval could get delayed if you don't have them. So, bring your tax return transcripts, not your tax returns. If you don't know the difference or how to get your tax return transcripts, check out this video. Do you believe in religious freedom? Careful, this is the opposite of the question on your N400 application, Part 12, Question 14F. Were you ever involved in any way with not letting someone practice his or her religion? Remember, freedom of religion is one right in the First Amendment of the US Constitution, and it means you can practice any religion or not practice a religion. So the easiest way to answer this is, I believe in religious freedom and always let others practice their religions. By the way, if you want to get a feel for what the real naturalization interview is like, then you should check out our live mock interviews via Zoom. The mock interview will be tailored specifically for you. We will go over your N400 application, do the civics test, English reading and writing test, and test your ability to speak and understand English. At the end of the interview, we'll review your performance, provide you some tips for improvement, and address any questions you may have. If you're interested, check it out on our website. I'll have a link in the description. Have you ever been arrested, cited, or detained by any law enforcement officer for any reason? This question confuses a lot of applicants. If you've ever had a traffic ticket, the answer should be yes. A lot of applicants might answer this question incorrectly while filling out the form, and that's perfectly fine. Just let the officer know during the interview and bring your supporting documents. Usually, traffic tickets will not prevent you from getting your citizenship, so there's no reason to hide them. I went into more detail in this video if you need additional information. Are you an alcoholic? This is related to Part 12, Question 30A. An alcoholic is the same as a habitual drunkard, which means someone who drinks too much alcohol on a regular basis. So the answer should be no. Do you practice polygamy? Polygamy means being married to more than one person at the same time and is illegal in the US. It's related to Part 12, Question 30D. So the answer should be no as well. Have you ever failed to support your dependents or to pay alimony? This is related to Part 12, Question 30H. Not paying child support or alimony shows that you don't have good moral character and is one of the main reasons to get your citizenship application denied. So, if you have underage children not living with you or you have to pay alimony, make sure to bring supporting documents to show that you are making payments regularly. Have you ever made any misrepresentation to obtain any public benefit in the United States? This is related to Part 12, Question 30I. It is okay to receive unemployment benefits and public benefits such as food stamps or housing assistance. That will not affect your U.S. citizenship application. Misrepresentation means you provide information that is not true. So if you provided false information to obtain these benefits or failed to pay back the government for an overpayment of benefits, then your application may be denied. So the answer to this question should be no. Did you register for the Selective Service? On your interview notice, under "You must bring the following with you to the interview," One of the documents is any evidence of selective service registration. This is only applicable to male applicants. If you're a female applicant, you don't need to bring that. All men ages 18 to 25 who are U.S. citizens or immigrants, legally or illegally, living in the U.S. are required to register with the Selective Service. If you're not sure if you've registered, you can use this link to verify your registration. If you're a male applicant and didn't register for the Selective Service, make sure to check out this video. The next few questions are extremely important because they are related to the oath of allegiance. I want to make sure you completely understand them. Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? This is question 45 on your application. If you become a U.S. citizen, you should support the Constitution and form of government of the United States. So the answer should be yes, and say it confidently. What is the Constitution? Remember, one of the civics questions asks, what is the supreme law of the land? And the answer is the Constitution. So the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. In case the officer asks that, you'll be ready. What is the form of government of the United States? Do you know? The simple answer is republic. Now don't confuse that word with Republican. Republic is a form of government, and Republican is one of the major political parties in the U.S. So whether the political party of the current president is Democratic or Republican, the answer to this question is always republic. Do you understand the full oath of allegiance to the United States? This is question 46 on your application. The oath of allegiance to the United States is what you need to recite during the oath ceremony, and it's the last step before you officially become a U.S. citizen. So you need to fully understand it, and the answer to this question should be yes. Make sure to check out this video if you want to know what happens during the oath ceremony. And what is the oath of allegiance to the United States? Do you know? An oath is a promise. So the oath of allegiance to the United States is a promise to be loyal to the United States. Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States? This is question 47 on your application. Remember, you are not a U.S. citizen until you take the full oath of allegiance to the United States. So the answer again should be yes, I'm willing to. If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? This is question 48 on your application. Bear arms means to use or carry a weapon, usually a gun. So this question asks, if during a war, the government asks you to use a gun to defend the United States, are you willing to do that? Again, the answer should be yes, I'm willing to. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces? This is question 49 on your application. Non-combatant services are services that do not engage in fighting during a war, so not carrying or using a gun. This question asks if you are willing to assist the U.S. Armed Forces during a war without using a gun. The answer should be yes, I'm willing to. And what if they ask, can you give an example of non-combatant services that you can perform? Some good examples are cooking for the soldiers, nursing, or providing translation. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction? This is question 50 on your application. Work of national importance under civilian direction are important tasks during a national crisis, such as an earthquake or a hurricane. This question asks if you're willing to help out the country during a national disaster. The answer should be yes, I'm willing to. Can you give me an example of work of national importance under civilian direction? A good example would be helping the Red Cross to distribute water during an earthquake. All right, that's all. If you need help with your studying, check out these videos. I'll see you next time. Bye.